Today we're going to talk about the recovery gear that I carry with me on my day trips, on my long trips, and some of the recovery gear that I don't carry with me and why. And I can't tell you how many times over the years that I've had to do a recovery of myself, of my buddy, or of some stranger. Usually somebody that's in a Prius that thinks they can drive down a sandy wash. But there are many reasons that you might encounter a recovery. Maybe you were a little too overconfident, got yourself stuck, or you just chose the wrong line, or maybe the weather conditions changed and now you're in some sloppy mud, or a vehicle could break, who knows? But you need to have the tools to be able to do a recover safely. And so what I want to do today is talk about some of the gear that you should consider taking with you out on your off-road and overland adventures. And this is not going to be a video about how to actually use this stuff. I think we need to have a foundation about what these pieces of gear are used for, and then in a future video we will talk specifically about how to use this and talk about doing some safe recoveries, which I think that'll be a lot more fun because we'll actually get out on the trail, get dirty, and have some good times doing that. But first, I want to talk about some things that you need to know or have before you even buy this gear. Starting with the most important recovery thing that you can take with you is another person in another vehicle, because you don't know what's going to happen to your vehicle. You could have a catastrophic failure and you're not going to be able to drive out. And so having somebody that can either tow you out or give you a ride to go get help is absolutely critical. And recovering a vehicle with another vehicle is usually the easiest way to do it. You can do self-recoveries, but having another vehicle there and another set of hands and another set of eyes to make sure you do it safely and it's a little more efficient, it's the best thing. Now look, I do a lot of off-roading by myself, but I'm confident to use the gear and do self-recovery. But there's no substitute for having a second vehicle with you when you are out on your adventures. Number two, this one's pretty obvious, a winch. It's one of the first things that a lot of people bolt onto their vehicles. Having a winch to be able to recover yourself or recover somebody else is absolutely invaluable. Now, it requires that you have a bumper that's winch capable and you add a winch, so there's some cost and there's some weight to that, but I think it's worth the investment if you're going to be doing this often, especially if you're going to be doing it solo. So having a winch, knowing how to use it, again, that's a future video, is really important to have if you're going to do this a lot of times. Another thing is lockers, and I can't tell you how many times lockers have just created the easiest situation where you're cruising along, you get stuck somewhere and you're trying to figure out oh wait, let me just turn the lockers on, and you roll right out of it. Now, modern day vehicles have excellent traction control systems. Well, some of them do. And Grenadier, you need to work on it. But they do have lockers. And what happens usually when you get stuck is vehicles have a tendency to push power to whatever tire is spinning, trying to get traction, but you're not going anywhere because that tire doesn't have any traction. When you engage lockers, you give equal power to both wheels and you're able to get out of that situation. Well, modern day vehicles, what they'll do is they'll apply brakes or they'll have whatever kind of crazy mechanism to kind of decrease power going to that wheel and put traction on the other one, and it'll get you through a situation. Now, here's where lockers can be better than a modern day traction control system. If you know that you're coming up to an obstacle, you can turn your lockers on in advance and it's going to make going through that much easier. And so if your vehicle's not equipped with lockers, I think it's worth the investment to have at least a rear locker installed, but they can be a great asset. Next, airing down your tires. There's lots of reasons to air down your tires, and traction is probably the most important reason. But here's the thing, sometimes you need to go lower than you think you do. If you are out in the sand or in the snow and you find yourself stuck, and let's say you air down to about 20 psi and now you're just spinning and spinning, stop spinning, first of all, assess the situation. But sometimes just airing down your tires to maybe 10 or 7 psi just to get out of that sand pit and then air them back up afterwards can really work wonders. And so playing with your tire pressure when you're stuck can be a good technique. Another thing is knowing your driving limits. This is one that I see often out there. Somebody buys a new Jeep, they take it to a shop, they have all kinds of lift kits and tires and all this stuff bolted onto it, and then they head out and they get themselves stuck because they don't have a lot of driving skills and they don't know how their vehicle operates. You need to practice driving skills, and you need to know your vehicle's limits and capabilities. And the only way you're going to do that is over time. And so what I would say is, the minute you go buy your vehicle, don't go take it on the most difficult trail you can find. Take it easy. Go out and wheel with some other folks, learn from them, learn your vehicle, and work your way up gradually before you kind of start getting after it hard. Lastly, what is on this table, all that other stuff is not on this table, and that is some satellite communication. This is my Starlink Mini. This hooks up to both a USB-C port, or I can plug this into just a 110 inverter. I take this with me in every vehicle, and that's so if something really bad happens, I can reach out and talk to somebody. I can call my wife, I can call a buddy to come get me, whatever. You don't necessarily need to have a Starlink Mini. You could get a sat phone, you can get a Garmin InReach where you can text, or a Zoleo. You should have some way to communicate with somebody, because if you're out somewhere and you have a really catastrophic failure where you can't recover yourself, or you can't recover somebody else and you need to call for help, being able to do that can really be a big asset. So having some satellite communication these days is easy to obtain. You just got to figure out what the right tool is for you, because you never know when you might need it. All right, so now let's break into some of these bags and let's talk about some of the basic and a little more advanced gear that you should consider taking with you. All right, now we're going to talk about what's in each of these recovery bags, and they're a little bit different. This recovery bag is one that I've had for, I don't know, I've had this one for a long time. This is from Factor 55. This is currently what I carry in the Land Cruiser. And then this one I got about 6 months ago, and this is a MaxTrax bag, and this one has a lot of recovery gear in here, and this is actually what I took with me up to Canada. Now, if you're looking for recovery gear, we have some stuff over at TrailRecon.com, and I'll leave a link down below. You go check it out. There's all kinds of stuff over there, guys. And you don't have to get the expensive stuff. There is some stuff that's a little bit more budget friendly, and you just need some basics to get started, and then you can work your way up from there. But this is good gear. Like I said, I've had this one for a long time. So let's start with probably the most basic piece of recovery gear, and that is a good tow strap. Now, I pulled this one out of the back of my son's Jeep, which is now my Jeep, and that's a conversation for another day. But this is, I think this is a 30-foot tow strap, and this is pretty perfect for most situations. If you have a good recovery point on both vehicles, you've got another vehicle, this will get you out of just about 70% of sticky situations. And these tow straps are not expensive. Keeping them in good condition is important. This one actually has been used a lot. I think the key thing about a tow strap is, one, making sure that it's certified, so there should be some kind of weight rating on there. Two, 20 to 30 feet I think is a pretty good length for a tow strap, and I wouldn't want anything shorter than that. I mean, you can carry a shorter rope, but that would be for maybe a very specific situation. But I think in general, 20 to 30 foot tow strap is going to work for you. And then just make sure you're inspecting your tow straps. Over time, they're going to start to get frayed a little bit, and just taking a minute to kind of go over it, making sure that everything looks good, it's in serviceable condition is important. And it's not a bad idea to probably replace these every, I don't know how often, but maybe once in a while it's not bad to replace them. I mean, really, it's a good investment. Okay, so having a tow strap, that's number one. Now, having some things to attach that tow strap to, if let's say your recovery point is closed, meaning it's not like a hook, it's actually a hole that you have to put something through, like a shackle. And so having some soft shackles like this, man, I'm going to tell you, these are, I don't have enough of these ever, and I have a lot of these in different sizes and different colors. These can be used for so many different rigging situations, attaching two straps together, attaching it directly to the vehicle. And having different sizes and different load capacities can be helpful. Now, I still do carry the old D-ring shackle, and these have their place as well. These are strong, guys. Make sure that they're certified. There's some numbers on here, and they'll tell you what they're rated to. And these also come in different sizes. I usually carry one or two of these, but most of the time I don't use these because this something was to break, this can become a projectile, and that's the last thing you want to have happen. Whereas if your winch line or your tow strap breaks, one of these hitting the window shouldn't be catastrophic. So having soft shackles like this, you can see I've got a few in here. And then I do recommend that everybody, even if you do have some recovery points, to carry one of these. And this is just a hitch link, and I got a couple of these. And this allows you to recover from the trailer hitch. Now, maybe your vehicle is equipped and you're good to go and you think you don't need these, but I will tell you that you're going to roll up to somebody, if you do this long enough, that you may need to recover somebody else, and they may not have a recovery point. Specifically, if they're like in a 4x4 Ford truck or whatever, being able to put one of these in their trailer hitch and then use that recovery point can really be helpful, and it's safe to do that. So I think those are the basic things in your bag you should carry, and we'll get into a little bit more advanced stuff, but we're not done with basic things. This right here, a shovel, boy oh boy, what a useful tool this is when you're out on the trail. A shovel can be often just the essential thing that you need to get unstuck. You don't necessarily need to go grab your recovery gear. So having a good quality shovel is very important. Many uses for it, and having a full size or medium shovel is good. Don't get one of those little small ones, guys, because you'll be digging forever and you'll kind of regret it. Finding a place to put a shovel can be a challenge, but it's worth the investment. Now, one other thing that I consider to be basic gear, and that is a set of traction boards. Now, I carry, those are loud, sorry. I carry traction boards on my trailer all the time, and that's just because it's a convenient place to mount them. However, if you carry a full set of 4 of these on your vehicle, one, you need to find the room to do it. 2, they're actually pretty heavy, especially a full set of 4. And so you're gonna have to figure out where to mount those. And so typically, I don't bring traction boards with me on day trips or even a couple days out in the desert. But if I'm gonna go out for a long period of time, or I know that I'm gonna be getting in the snow or the mud or the deep sand, then I will find a way to bring some traction boards with me. I don't usually grab these as my first recovery tool. I know a lot of people do. I just personally don't. I'm actually a little more comfortable just grabbing the winch or just doing the tow strap. These can be a little cumbersome, and if they get muddy, they can be kind of messy to put away. But traction boards are a great tool, and just throwing these under the tires and being able to roll right out of a bad situation is pretty convenient, and it's pretty safe. Traction boards are one of the safest ways that you can actually recover your vehicle. So I encourage you to consider carrying some traction boards, especially if the situation might dictate it. Okay, so that's some of the basic recovery gear that I think folks should consider taking with them. Now let's talk about some other things that might be beneficial as well. Now, after you've gotten some of the basic recovery gear, then there's some things that maybe you want to consider adding on. So let's start with a tree strap. A tree strap is just a short strap that wraps around a tree. It's got a wide girth around it so it doesn't damage the tree, and that will give you something to pull on. So you can wrap this around a tree and then attach your soft shackles here, and then your winch line goes out from here. Don't wrap your winch line around a tree. I've seen people do that, guys. 1, it's not safe, and 2, it's just not good for the tree, and we don't need to be messing up the environment out there. We've already got people keeping an eye on us. So a tree strap, that's a good one to have. Another one is what's called a snatch block. I have a bunch of these, and what a snatch block does is it actually allows you to double your pulling power. So you can wrap your winch line around that in these grooves here, and you can attach that back to your vehicle or somewhere else, or if you need to do a 90-degree pull. These are really helpful to have. Now, this is not something that you should just use without having a little bit of training, and so I would encourage you to look up how to use one of these, even maybe take a recovery class. A basic 101 class would be good, but having a snatch block or even 2 of these, man, you can really increase your winch's pulling power. And so these are super good to have. And if you see here, the one thing you can do is you put one of your soft shackles to there, then your winch line runs to there, and this can attach to a tree or it can attach to another vehicle, and you've basically just kind of increased your pulling power. So these are great to have. Also in here, and I like this bag. A lot of this stuff is new. Again, this one I've had for years. This one's new, but I like this because it's all right where I need it. Like the thing I usually grab the most is a soft shackle, and that's right here in the front. Inside the top here, I have a bunch of different ropes. So this, I believe, is a 15-foot static rope. This one is a 20-foot static rope, and then this one is one that this is one that you don't need to have, but it is a very nice to have if the situation dictates it. And this is a kinetic rope. And so if you think about this as like a rubber band. So if your vehicle gets stuck, it gets stuck hard in the mud, and you can't get out with just pulling because you're the mud is kind of sucking you in. Sometimes attaching a kinetic rope to another vehicle and then leaving that rope just a little bit loose, and that vehicle gets a little bit of a running start and gives you that pull, that extra little pull with the rope, can get you unstuck. So these take up a lot of space. They're heavy, but in those situations, they are perfect to have. And make sure that you're not using a kinetic rope as a tow strap. You shouldn't just, because if you use that to tow a vehicle or to do a pull, you actually will lose the kinetic elasticity of that rope, and you don't want to do that. So that's specifically for those specific situations. If you're going to tow somebody, you need a static rope like this. So those are some kind of advanced things that I think you should consider taking. Now let's talk about something that I don't take with me. Now, when I first bought my Jeep many moons ago, I bought a winch, I bought a CB radio, and I bought a high lift jack. Well, the winch stayed, the CB radio, I don't even think I own one anymore, and the high lift jack, I don't even own one of those anymore. And I can already hear the comments. There are people out there that love their high lift jacks, and yes, they have their use. But what I found was I could recover myself with all these other tools without ever having to use a high lift jack. They're big, they take up a lot of space, they're heavy, and they can be a little bit dangerous. Actually, they can be a lot dangerous. And so I quit carrying a high lift jack because I just didn't use it. They can be used, and I'm gonna hear it in the comments. I don't care. This is Brad's opinion. I'm not telling you not to carry a high lift jack. I'm just telling you that I don't carry one. But what I do carry with me is a good quality bottle jack. And not only can a bottle jack be good for changing a tire, but if you get the right kind of bottle jack that's got some extensions on it, it's got some plates and some hooks like this, you can raise the vehicle up a little bit or raise the axle up or whatever you need to maybe get the traction board under a tire or stuff a couple rocks under there. And it's not gonna be as hairy as doing a side lift with a high lift jack with all the tension on there. You can just raise the vehicle up a little bit, slide a couple rocks into there, raise it up a little bit more, slide a couple more in there. I've done that many, many, many times. And so a bottle jack, you can see how compact that is. It's a little heavy, but it's not high lift jack heavy. And so I like carrying a bottle jack. That's just my personal preference. So I want you to think about all this gear as your vehicle's first aid kit. I'm a big proponent of carrying a first aid kit and all the other things with you, but having the right recovery gear, knowing how to use it safely, can give you the confidence to get out and have a good adventure. And I think it's so important to have just the basics. Don't go out and buy all the things. Get the basics, get some training, whether it's online training or in-person training, or you're hanging out with a buddy and say, hey, teach me how to use a snatch block. I think that's super invaluable. And then I'll give you a little bit of confidence. So there you go, guys. That's just been a little bit of an overview of what recovery gear you should consider taking with you. The next time we break this gear out, let's talk a little bit more about how to use it. And maybe I'll just go get my Jeep stuck on purpose. That'll be kind of fun. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next time, safe travels.